Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about.
Our guest this week is Bonnie Burton. Bonnie is a Los Angeles-based author, games writer, podcaster, YouTuber, and journalist. Bonnie writes books about entertainment, pop culture, crafting, drawing, self-help, and humor. She writes both fiction and nonfiction for children's, teens, and adults, and her books range from making of movies, crafts, drawing, and sci-fi books for kids and young adults. She also writes nonfiction books for licensed properties such as Star Wars, Harry Potter, and DreamWorks. And she writes murder mystery games for Hunt a Killer. You keep very busy, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you can take time to join us. Thank you for your wonderful suggestions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're a little bit different than the last time I was on. Last time I was, that was my first time out, and now I had a bit more fun with it this time.
Cool.
That's what we're looking for. Fun.
That sounds great. Yes, it's all about fun. So yeah, tell us your first one. It sounds pretty cool. I'll let you share.
Yeah, it's a Nordic Ware Haunted Skull Cakelet pan. I don't know why they call it Cakelet. It's for the rest of us oldies. It's a muffin pan. I don't know.
Cakelet.
It's like
Cakelet.
Well, that's because you can charge more for a cakelet than you can for a muffin.
Yeah, it also I think
Yeah, exactly.
it's slightly bigger than a muffin. So
Okay.
it's a skull shaped mold that you can make ice because it's I think it's what they're trying to do is so it's not just muffins. That's why they don't want to call it a muffin pan.
I see.
So you can make popsicles from it. You can make like they say crispy treats. I think they mean like Rice Krispie treats. You can make pizza rolls, Mexican ginger skulls, for Day of the Dead. And obviously little cakes, but you can also make meatloaf. And I have not done the meatloaf yet, but I watched there's a great goth YouTuber out of Kansas called Jade the Libra, and she shows step by step how to make a meatloaf skull from this cake pan. So that's one of the reasons I got it, because I was like, oh, okay, I need to, since the pandemic, everybody's been cooking more at home. And I've been trying to wean myself off of Postmates because I'm very lazy and because I don't have any roommates. It's just me. I tend to not eat the healthiest because I don't have anyone raising an eyebrow at me when I order food. So I was like, okay, maybe if I get one of these things, I'll make like a vegan meatloaf or something. I mean, truth be known, I'm probably just gonna make red velvet cupcakes and they're not gonna be any healthier than before, but I like the idea of skull as a mold for things.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah. And it's pretty cheap. It's $30 on Amazon. I got mine at Target. If you can get to Target, now is the time to get all the Halloween stuff if it hasn't been picked over yet. And then they have it for sale there. It might be a tad cheaper at Target. Right.
So there's 6. It's a little tray with 6 skull molds. And is it half of it, or is it a full mold with the back as well as the front?
I think it's got a flat back to it. I'm not sure. I think it's not like those silicone trays where you get 2 of them and you just fill it up and then do back to back. I think it's flat on one side, which makes sense because you don't want your food rolling off the plate. So I think it's just flat on one side. Yeah.
Is it metal or silicone?
I think it's, let me double check. I believe.
Was it stiff or is it flexible?
I have mine in my underneath a bunch of pots and pans, or else I'd get it, and then you'd have this cornucopia of things hitting each other.
Ambient sound.
Yeah, this it's aluminum or aluminium,
as they say
in the UK
over the pond. Yeah.
But if you go to the Amazon page, it's funny, they have all these like stylized links, and of course, one of them is red velvet cake, and it looks like Red Skull from Marvel.
Cool.
Like it looks like Hydra. Yeah, it's pretty intense. Like, if you do sugar skulls for Day of the Dead, you can decorate it with different colored frosting and stuff, and that's a little bit more playful. But I collect a lot of Day of the Dead stuff just because I like how death is celebrated, and it's not macabre. It's you're celebrating your loved ones that have passed. So I'm more on that spectrum of death, but I do love horror films. So I think I'm also being slightly hypocritical. Yeah.
Did you like the Disney movie about Day of the Dead?
I did. I thought that was
it was really good.
It was really good. The music was great. I think it really showed the culture well, and a lot of Mexican Americans worked on that movie, so it wasn't appropriating anything.
Right.
You know, it was definitely more of a informational if you don't know anything about that culture. I grew up around that culture in the Midwest. We have a lot of Latinx people and Mexican Americans, and so I grew up with that, knowing about it, but not everyone does. So,
did you see that movie, Kevin?
I saw Coco.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Coco.
That's the Pixar movie, Coco.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah, so
it's
good.
Really good. And I kind of feel like we'll start seeing more of that, like hopefully as more things get greenlit that are diversity based and not just, white dude stories.
Right.
Hopefully we'll see more of that kind of culture and stuff, not just in kid stuff, but in adult stuff as well. So I'm all for it for sure. But so that's my first tool.
Good. Okay. Well, let's move on down the list.
Okay. Second tool. They're called Silicone Trivets. They look like a large rubber coasters for like it's basically you put hot pans on it. If you need to move something hot from the stove to the kitchen table, dining room table, you put that on there, and it keeps kitchen surfaces and table surfaces from burning. If you have something super hot, like a casserole or something. But these are such a cool design. They almost look like Spirograph designs.
Yeah, they do.
That I got it for decoration. I was going to buy a bunch and put them on my bathroom wall. Because I like different kind of designs for that, and I don't want to do wallpaper. But then, and they're pretty cheap. You get 3 for $12. And I got mine off of Amazon. But they're also perfect for opening really tough to budge jar lids.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have the upper body strength of like a Keebler elf. Like I have not a Lord of the Rings elf, but a Keebler elf. So I have enough muscle power to shove cookies into my mouth, but I can't open anything. Like I have zero weightlifting skills. And because I live alone, I can't open anything, and I don't want to go to my neighbors because that just seems sad. So,
can you open this jar of peanut butter for me, please?
Yeah, and I don't want to. Yeah, and I have a lot of jars to open, and so you could do that trick. There is a trick. There's a sciencey trick where you can put the jar lid, the whole jar in the jar lid, under some hot water, and then you hit the edge of it with like a metal, like butter knife or something. You hit the edges of it all the way around, and then you can open it. There's something to do with physics, science, I don't know. But if you don't want to do that, you get one of these, these Trivets, these silicone rubber coasters, and you just put it on top of the lid and just cover the lid, and then it opens. Like you just turn it with that because you have extra grippage.
Yeah.
So that's why I got it, but they're very cool designs. So because they're like Spirograph design, and for those of you listening who don't know what Spirograph is, I feel sad, first of all, because that's a childhood thing from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that they were these discs that you basically put, they're different shapes, and they had holes in them. I don't know if I can describe this properly.
They're like gears, and so they would.
Yeah, they look like little steampunk gears, and you put them inside of a hoop, like a circle that was a hoop. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. And everything's like on white paper, and then you use a pen into one of the holes in the gear, and then you work the gear all the way around inside the hoop or around the hoop. You could do around it as well. And you get these really cool, almost like atomic designs. I don't know how to describe them, but they're
all radial. They're all radial and circular.
Yeah, they're really pretty too. And when animated GIFs were first a thing in, I'm going to age myself, but when remember GIF Builder? Would that come out in like 1997? Okay. It's called GIF Builder, and it was, you could put a series of images and make an animated GIF. So you can make your own animated GIF. Not like how you can do it now, super easy, but you had to have a bunch of different images and then you put it together, kind of like stop motion. Mm-hmm. And I would make these stop motion Spirograph animated GIFs. I'll send you some if you want to check them on. They're on my website, girl.com, which is grrl.com, girl.com, mm-hmm. that I've had since 96,
forever.
95. Yeah, I still have the same email address. It's so funny when people are like, oh, I forgot your email address. I'm like, I've had Bonnie at girl.com since 1996. If you can't remember that, that's sad. But yeah, so I had those because I have an eBay collector's section on girl.com of things I would collect when eBay first started. So I collect big-eyed dolls from the 60s and really creepy haunted puppets and a lot of like Pee Wee Herman dolls and Spirograph. And I collect a lot of remember Cooties, the plastic bug
the grasshopper toy.
Yeah, so I collected a bunch of those and then would decorate my apartment with them on the wall. So it looked like I had a cootie infestation in my apartment. I always treat my apartment like an art installation. And it's always for my own benefit. No one else cares, but
So what happened to those decorations from that time?
Well, that was like my first apartment in San Francisco in the 90s. So I mean, I've been through so many apartments.
I know, but did you leave all that with the apartment when you left?
Oh no, I want the security department back. It's the security deposit. It's like when you're that young, it's life or death for you to get that back.
Exactly.
Right.
It's funny because Amy Sedaris and Todd Oldman called it personality tax. If you want to do strange things to your apartment, I mean, she's lived in the same apartment in Chelsea for years, but if you want to, do fun things with your apartment, you just have to assume you're never going to get that back.
Right.
So you still have the cooties stuff?
I don't. I think I gave them to a friend that had kids.
Okay.
I go through toys. I re-gift a lot. I mean, I have a pretty small apartment in North Hollywood right now. It's like, I think it's less than 1,000 square feet. It's a loft. But if you look at my Instagram, it's like it looks like I live inside of a bookstore. Cause I have 23 bookcases and because I color code everything. It looks.
You say color code. Color code meaning that everything is arranged by color, or that you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all my books, all of them are, except for my comics, because I would never be able to find the comics. It's a lot easier to find books than comics if you color code.
Yeah, that's really tough. I did go to a bookstore that was color coded, and man, it's beautiful, but I could not find anything.
Yeah, Adobe Books in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's where I was. I went to it. Yeah,
in the Mission District.
Yeah,
I think they're long gone. I don't know if they still exist.
No. While they were doing that, it was like, this is wonderful. This is horrible.
Well, they were also a bookstore. If you'd ever been in there before they color coded, they were the kind of bookstore was like, good luck finding anything, because it's just books on the floor. I mean, I think it was kind of organized like a regular bookstore. I don't think they did Dewey Decimal System, which I have done my organization of my books and records like that before. That's because I'm a third generation library kid. Both my mom and my grandmother were librarians. So we learned Dewey Decimal very quickly and very sternly. So I knew it. But yeah, Adobe Books was all over the place with their books. And it was kind of fun if you're a book collector and a book lover, because I love bookstores like that, because you feel like you're treasure hunting and you feel like you find some really cool stuff. Iliad Books in North Hollywood is like that. That's a really famous used bookstore, rare bookstore. Everyone that's ever in LA should visit Iliad Books. I know everyone says go to Last Bookstore, which is also very pretty, but Iliad is a rare and used bookstore run by book lovers. They just went through a redesign, but if you watch the latest I think it's the latest season of American Horror Story called Red Tide. There is a scene where one of the characters, before she finds success as a romance writer, is having a very limited attended book reading. As I can relate to that. And it's an Iliad. Oh my God. I've had book signings as an author where just two people showed up and one of them showed up on the wrong day. Like they thought I was somebody else.
That's good. I've had ones where zero showed up.
Yeah, that's fun. That's real fun. Especially when you're at a convention and you're you're sitting next to like really popular authors who have a line all the way down the hallway, and then you see the pity in the eyes of the people waiting in line as they look at you.
Oh my God!
Trying to figure out who you are and why you're sitting there, and it's a fun.
Totally.
I don't miss that because of COVID. Like canceling book. I have books come out every year, and I had a book came out last year and a book come out two books last year and one book this year. And I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. Everyone thinks it's a really cool and ego boosting thing to do because we're all like used to seeing our favorite authors and how big a lines they have. I know that Murder, She Wrote ruined my ideal of what book. It basically gave me unrealistic ideals as an author, thinking I, like Jessica Fletcher, would be put up in the presidential suite, that I would be invited to very posh and expensive hotels, and that I would have, that NYU would offer me a professorship. No, none of that.
So I had a couple of those experiences where you have one or two people show up, and that was why in my last kind of big book, I decided to do podcasts. And I had a rule. It was very simple. It's like, if you've done more than 3 episodes of your podcast, I will show up on your podcast.
Wow.
And it was like, it was superior than having 2 people show up at a bookstore. Yeah. And so far, it was far more effective just to appear on anybody's podcast if they had more than 3 episodes, because the audience was always going to be larger than the 2 people who would show up at the bookstore.
Yeah, I will say the new series with Dean Martin and it's not Dean Martin, Steve Martin, Steve Martin, and who's the other guy?
Martin Short.
Mm-hmm. And Selma Gomez, the only murders in the building, where they are amateur detectives and they are true crime podcast junkies. And they decide to start their own podcast, which is great because you have the boomer level with, the 2 old guys and then the millennial with Selena Gomez. And they start a podcast called that, Only Murders in Our Building, because there's a murder that happens in their building and they want to solve it. So they start a podcast like the ones they love to compete with, the big guys. And they think they get 17 followers and they think they're a huge success. And I was just like, I can relate to that.
Totally.
Anyway,
is that a recommended show?
Oh yeah, it's on Hulu. If you have Hulu,
okay,
I highly recommend it. I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's some great cameos from other people from theater. Martin Short's character plays a retired, or I guess I shouldn't say retired. He's trying to make it big again on Broadway, but he's that guy that came up through Broadway, and he has too many Broadway stories that no one wants to hear. You know what I mean? Like the Steven Soderheim stories or whatever. Like he just has too many. And then Steve Martin plays an actor who was on a famous cop show, and he was a detective cop show called Brazos. And so certain people know him from that, but like he hasn't done a TV show in ages. And Selena Gomez is just, random millennial. And, but she's got secrets, but she's also very sarcastic. And she also, accepts their friendship, which is kind of sweet to see a millennial boomer kind of friendships happen. And if you love true crime, there's so many shout outs to true crime. And I will say there's a surprise cameo of someone who's like a very successful true crime podcaster who it's kind of based off of the My Favorite Murder podcast, which is my favorite true crime podcast. And it's very funny, the cameos they have, the actor cameos they have in the show. So I highly recommend it.
So I want to confess some ignorance here. What are true crime podcasts? That sounds like a genre. So it is. And the genre is like true crime, meaning that each podcast will be about history of crime, or okay,
like Serial. Kevin, you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember Serial.
So it's kind of like, you know how 2020 and 48 Hours and those types of new shows.
No, I've never seen those.
Are you serious? 2020?
No,
the TV show.
I don't have TV.
It's been on since like the 80s.
Kevin doesn't watch broadcast
TV. I haven't had TV. I've never had TV. We haven't had TV.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yes.
One of those people.
Although the people who had internet from the very, very beginning, but no TV, and the first Netflix subscriber, but no TV. Yeah, I'm one of those.
Okay. Well, Netflix counts because Netflix has a lot of documentaries that are about crimes that have happened. You know, the Ted Bundy tapes. That's true crime.
So, but the podcast is like every week they would take a new
case and dissect it. Yeah, and a lot of them are cases that are cold cases that have yet to be solved, and that's kind of the attraction as a true crime fan, is that you think if you just look at this case long enough and dissect it and hear all the different sides, that maybe you can be the one that solves it. You could crack the case. And it's funny because that is something comes up. That is something that comes up in Only Murders in This Building, because there is a detective who's just sick of true crime people trying to butt their way into her cases because they think they know everything because they listen to true crime podcasts.
That happens.
It's the amateur. It's like Jessica Fletcher, right? She's not a real detective. She just writes about murder, or Castle with Nathan Fillion, which is very much like Murder, She Wrote. And it's all about people who think they can solve things because the cops must have missed something, but I can figure it out. So that's what true crime is. And so some true crime is about that. Sometimes true crime podcasts will dissect a historical murder mystery. Bailey Sarian, who's one of my favorite YouTubers. She started out as a beauty tutorial person, and she's gorgeous. I mean, she's one of those people that does makeup professionally as a makeup artist. And she decided, because she loved true crime, that every Monday she would turn her usual beauty tutorial YouTube, which was very, very popular, into Makeup Murder Mondays.
Oh my gosh, that transition, that is bold.
It's bold, but it's made her very famous and very lucrative. She gets millions and millions of views on these things, and it's literally her with no makeup on at the start, putting on makeup. And if you're interested in what she's putting on, she lists the makeup in her description and the video, but she'll go step by step, very in depth, talking about one true crime case. And sometimes
as she's putting on makeup.
Yeah. And
oh my gosh, that is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so niche.
Yeah, and she's very.
Is she whispering? Does she do anything?
No.
She should.
She's very funny and very personable, and like she can be a little sarcastic, but one of the things she does, which I really commend her for, and I think My Favorite Murder podcast, which is done by two female comedians as well, I think that's what they do is they don't celebrate the serial killer, and they don't glamify it. They don't glamorize serial killers, and they are about the victims. But with Bailey, she picks true murder cases that are just so off the wall. One of them was, I think, about Aquafina, which was about a perfume that was made by this perfumist in France, I believe, in the 1700s, 1800s. And that perfume was actually a poison in a perfume bottle that she would sell to women who were beaten by their husbands because you couldn't get divorces back then. And so they would poison their husbands with this poison that was made but sold as a perfume. And I was like, that's genius. Why don't I know about this? Like she delves into a lot of weird 1920s, 1930s murder mysteries that you might not know about. So it's not just recent ones. It's a lot. It's not like, just the Girl Gone stuff. It's, it's new stuff. I mean, old stuff. And I've learned a lot. And so does My Favorite Murder. They'll go into that stuff too. So true crime's weird. Like, I think if you love murder mysteries, fictional murder mysteries, that it's not too big of a step to then go into true crime, because you want to know about, why are there so many unsolved cases? Why are there so many cold cases? I write for Hunt a Killer, which is fictional murders. But it's a dream job because I plan elaborate murders for these games. They're kind of like, they're kind of marketed as escape rooms in a box. It's an RPG game. And it's a team who writes it. It's almost like a TV writer's room. We use real world poisons and stuff. Like we not in real life. We don't test death on each other, but like it's not a how to. Like these games are not how to kill people. It's we do murder mysteries and
realistic.
Well, the cool thing about these games is it's like you're a detective that gets suspended, but you take all the information with you and make a murder wall on your wall and try to figure out the murder mystery using autopsy reports and witness statements and clues and
fun.
And it's all different things, and we have physical clues, and we have a lot of different ciphers and puzzles.
And what are these? This is called Hunt
a Killer.
Hunt's a Killer,
and this is you get like a package in the mail, like.
Yeah, you can get it kind of like Loot Crate, where you get a box. If it's a game that's many seasons, kind of like a TV show has many episodes, then each episode is a box, and it leads up to the end of the story. Or you can get an all-in-one story in one box, and those are for sale like on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and things like that. If you go to huntakiller.com, you get to you can see all of them, but the true crime stuff has suddenly now become important to my job. So that's why I'm like kind of more obsessed with it than I should be. But here's a good segue.
Yeah, Dustin Gloves.
If you decide to kill someone, don't forget to do it using Dustin Gloves. So if you're going to murder someone, gloves are good to wear, but Dustin Gloves even better, because then you wipe away all the evidence
as you do the job. So what are they?
What's a Dustin Glove?
Oh, they're super soft. Like they're made out of microfiber, which is ideal type of fiber for dusting. Like you don't want to use, how a lot of us have used like old socks and rags for dusting. Microfiber actually picks up the dust and holds on to it. So it's not like you're just wiping dust all over the place. Right. And these are actual gloves you wear, and they're almost like mittens. They're super soft. And you wear them, and I use them specifically. I'm all about the dusting. So I wore these gloves, but then I also have dusting slippers. So I wore them on my feet.
How about shouldn't you have those like dust things that they use for silicone wafers, the whole bunny suit?
I was thinking about that. I was like, why don't I just get a whole hazmat suit that I can just roll around on the floor? And
microfiber, the whole thing. So if you have the gloves, that mean you could just go through your bookshelves and just pick up books, and then you don't have to dust it. You just have to hold them.
Yeah, that's why I like them, is because you can wear them and then you can get into corners that maybe your other dusting apparatuses can't get into, but they're also perfect for dusting houseplants. So if you have a lot of houseplants that have fragile leaves, but you need to get the dust off of them,
massage them.
Like a monstera can rip easily, so you have to be careful of those leaves. Not so much snake plant or pothos, but you still have to dust all those off. And I live in Southern California where it's dusty all the time. It might as well be 1930s Kansas, because it's like Dust Bowl Central or Dubai dust storm. Like it's always dusty in my apartment. So I'm always using those things.
Dusty.
It's just dusty. It's not like San Francisco, where I lived predominantly most of my adult life, just because it's great, but it got too expensive. So I moved down here. But honestly, like San Francisco, you have to worry about mold and mildew. And then in LA, you just have to worry about dust and fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we have earthquakes and mold. You have dust and fire. Okay.
Yeah, but I will say these gloves are very comfortable and they're machine washable. So soon as you're done dusting,
I see. That's how you. Oh, that's brilliant. So you just put them in the wash.
All microfiber is. So if you have microfiber rags or sock booties, I use that for just. I use those just to wear around the house every day because then it picks up dust on my floor.
I love it.
Yeah,
cool
and they're
idea.
cheap. They're cheap. They're like 3 for $10, and I think the footies are even cheaper. But yeah, if you can get these gloves, you'll never go back to regular dusting again.
Okay, so we have just a few minutes, so you should tell us about your fourth.
Okay, the fourth one's the best one.
Yes, I think so.
It's a 5-foot tall posable life-size skeleton. You can get these anywhere, but Target right now has it for the cheapest for $40. And it's about 60 inches in height, 15.5 inches width, 6.5 inches, I think, diameter. And it's an extra large. I mean, even though it's 5 foot tall, so it's just imagine any of your friends or family that are 5 foot tall. That's how tall the skeleton is. Mm-hmm. It's really fun because it's posable. So the legs, the knee joints, the foot joint, the ankle joints, knee joints. I'm staring at my skeleton as I'm saying this. The elbow and the shoulder joints are movable. Hand joints are movable too. The skull itself, you can turn around. The jaw is also movable, so you can have the mouth shut or the mouth open. So it's like, hey, and it comes looking like a regular skeleton. You can hang it. That comes with a little hoop on the skull. I cut that off. I just have him sitting in my living room staring at me. And I put googly eyes in the eye sockets. So it's extra.
You got to send us a picture of that.
Oh yeah, I in the document I filled out for you. I have my Instagram.
Oh, okay. Right.
If you go to my Instagram, it's Bonnie Girl. It's just my name, Bonnie, and then GRRL. You can see many pictures of the skeleton just hanging out.
Yeah. So in the old days, these life-size skeletons used to be incredibly expensive.
Oh yeah.
Because they were, anatomical models and
I have one of those too. I have a medical grade one.
Right. But these are almost as good, right?
I'd say, I mean, they're not as detailed. The medical one that I have is on a stand, and it's kind of like the kind you would see if you had a science class in high school or college. Or pre-med, so it's accurate, and it also comes with stickers so you can label everything. Because those skeletons are really for teaching models.
Sure.
And I got my first one on Amazon. It was on sale for I think $100 or something. Because they're usually a lot more expensive. And it's just so funny because when I moved from San Francisco to LA, let me just tell you, I have a lot of taxidermy too. So the movers really were nervous. At first, they thought I was a bookstore at first because of all the books, and the bookcases, and I had no bed. I had a futon that I was leaving behind, so I had no bed, just books, dead animals, and skeletons, and scary puppets and dolls and things. And so I remember when one of the boxes broke open and the skeleton fell out. There was just this long pause. The movers looked at me and then looked at the skeleton, looked at me, and I'm like, oh, it's not. I remember saying this so cheerfully. Oh, it's not real. I said it a little too quickly. And they're like, uh-huh. And I'm like, no, it's not real. See? And I'm trying to prove to them. I'm like, see, if you lick it, your tongue won't stick to it. If it's a real bone, your tongue will stick to it because human bones are porous. And the more I tried to explain why it wasn't real, the creepier I sounded. So I will say, if you move with skeletons, just make sure they are wrapped in bubble wrap. Don't just put a skeleton in a box. They don't. Yeah. But so originally I did have the medical one. I still do. I bought it because of the British comedy series, The Young Ones. I don't know if you ever watched it. But
absolutely.
Vivian, it's a comedy series, but Vivian, who's a punk rocker, is a med student, and he has the skeleton, the exact same medical skeleton right next to their refrigerator. And different episodes, you'll see him decorated with different things. I'm like, that's genius. So that's why I bought it.
So cool.
Yeah. But I do highly recommend a A posable skeleton's a lot cheaper. Right. They're usually $40. You can find them pretty much now everywhere because of Halloween, but you can find them at any store, and online you could probably find them cheap. Party City has them too. Everybody has them.
So I saw our friend Matt Hawley, he Instagrammed a neighbor of his who had a 9-foot skeleton, and that's what I want.
So here's the one you really want. It's not the 9-foot one. It's the 12-foot one.
Okay.
It's a 12-foot skeleton. I almost bought it. My apartment is too small, and I almost bought it. I was like, okay, but I realized because I live in a loft, I'd either be staring at its crotch the whole time, or if I was in bed, it goes all the way up. So you see the skull staring in at me while I sleep. And I thought this would be funny until I forget I have this. And then it's not going to be funny. But it's only $300 at Home Depot. So it's actually
Home Depot sells it? Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah.
But you have to find it. And you have to get a U-Haul, though, because the box is so big. And you have to still put it together. Even though you have to assemble it, the box is still very, very, very big.
Man.
Oh, my gosh.
So if you're going to get it at Home Depot, I think Home Depot delivers, but it might be cheaper to do a U-Haul. But they're going like hotcakes. And if you're on Facebook, I highly recommend joining, I think it's called the Giant Skeleton Club or the 12-foot Skeleton Club. I'll send you the URL. But it's so much fun to see what people are doing with them. And it's like just hilarious. They have one where a bunch of little skeletons are holding up the big skeleton. And there's one where the giant 12-foot skeleton is walking a ton of dog skeletons, like he's a dog walker. Someone also dressed him up as Mario from Mario Brothers. There's one that's dressed up like the Grim Reaper. And these things are tall. Like when I say 12 feet, you don't think it's tall. It's tall.
It's tall. No,
it's tall.
I think this is a good place to end.
Good idea.
I think this is like, oh my gosh!
Now that I've officially ruined Cool Tools.
No, you've upped our level by.
I've turned it into Cool Murder Tools.
Yeah, murders, poison, skeletons. Well, we're on topic here.
I mean, when we get to 12-foot skeletons that you get at Home Depot on a U-Haul, that's like, okay, I was not expecting that one.
That's dedication to Halloween right there.
Yeah, wow.
I think because we were all sequestered for so long because of COVID quarantine, it's made people a little loopy. And I'm one of those people. I got very shining. Like I bought all this furniture thinking all my friends are going to come visit when I first moved to LA. And then COVID quarantine happened and I have all this empty chairs. So I just filled it with like creepy ventriloquist puppets and now a skeleton. I've completely gone Norman Bates. Like I just need to I need to reacclaim my spot in society so I don't go completely insane. But I think because of quarantine and COVID, people are like, they want to celebrate Halloween to its fullest because we didn't really get to do that last year.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah. So our contribution was this week. My wife and I watched in 5 nights Squid Game, the first.
Oh, it's so
season.
Good.
And
so
it's
good.
Like, oh my gosh, that's so my contribution to the Halloween.
Ruin it for us. We're on our 4th episode.
I won't. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it yet, start watching it. It's more bizarre than you think it's going to be.
So good. Exactly.
We're really loving it, and very well made. Good acting, great sets.
Yeah. So did you do the dub or the subtitles?
We're doing the subtitles. We're kind of purists.
We did the dub. And the dub was pretty good.
Good.
Here's the thing. I do both the dub and subtitles, but
wait, at the same time?
Yeah, and I'm of the age where I put subtitles on English things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do that too.
I have to because people whisper or I don't quite understand what people are saying, and I don't want to be that old person that goes and says, "What did he say? What's he talking about?" So I watch it with subtitles. But here's the fun thing: if you do watch something that's in another language and you know the language, it's fun to watch the subtitles because they don't always match up.
Yeah.
And they never do, especially Russian stuff never does. But if you watch, what was the one with Natasha Lyonne that was like Groundhog Day? Russian Doll?
Russian Doll.
So the cool thing with that, their music and their end credits it's just so well curated. But one of them is a Pussy Riot song. that's in Russian, but the subtitles are in English. And so you actually finally know what they're saying because they never sing in English. So
yeah. That's great.
But it's also good because I watch a lot of things in different languages with subtitles on, just so I can learn bad words, like swear words, because there's just certain swear words that are best said in Russian or Spanish or Italian. Yeah.
But in Squid Game, you watched it with subtitles and dubbed.
I did. And then I'll probably watch it again in its original language with subtitles. I just finished Chestnut Man. I highly recommend that as well on Netflix. That's a Danish murder mystery show. That's very creepy. And I watched it both in Dutch and also English. I watch things twice just because I always think I'm going to miss something. So I'm that person.
Okay. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you for the tour, the whole tour, and for your picks and for all this other stuff we talked about, which is just as interesting as any of the tools that we're talking about.
Oh, good. I mean, sometimes
it was really fun.
I will say if you dare to have me back on, if you want me back on, if I haven't ruined our friendships,
of course not.
If you ever want to do a cool tools based on murder,
you're the girl. You're the girl.
I can tell you which tools you are best used for for killing, but also hiding a body, because that's the one thing killers always forget.
Yeah, that's the tough thing.
Killing is easy. It's getting away with it that's hard. So you have to figure out where you're going to bury or dismantle or hide a body for years. And that's not easy. So I'm your girl if you want to do a special tools episode.
All right.
That sounds so great.
But I should say for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, for educational purposes only. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting anyone murder anything. There's always a non-violent situation or solution for pretty much everything.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Yes.
Okay, well, you certainly killed it today, so thank you.
Yay, thank you. Thank you for having me on, and I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun, so thank you for having me on.
That was so much fun.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's your host Mark, and I wanted to thank you for listening to the Cool Tools Show, and I also wanted to let you know that we've got a lot more going on at Cool Tools than just this podcast. We also have the Cool Tools website, which has a new tool review every day, and you can get there by going to cool-tools.org. We also have 4 different newsletters that you can subscribe to, and you can subscribe to those from the Cool Tools page. We have this podcast that you're listening to right now. We also have a YouTube channel where we review tools. Check that YouTube channel out by going to youtube.com/cooltools. And one of the things I'd like to ask you is if you're really enjoying everything that we are producing, go to our Patreon page and support us there. You can sign up and give us as little as $1 a month, and that would mean a lot to us. The money that we get from Patreon goes towards a lot of things. We transcribe our podcast interviews so that you can read them online. We pay for editing of our podcasts and for our videos. We pay our contributors. We have video production costs. We have equipment costs. We have hosting costs. And the money you give us through Patreon also goes to support Cool Tools Lab. Anything you give is a huge help. And one of the things that we do is if you are a contributor to Patreon, we'll give you a shout out on air. And so I have a few people here to thank this week. Mark Lyanaj, Micah Gates, Monty Zukowski, Patrick James McNally, Robert Cohen, Scott, Spence Lloyd, Steve Avery, Steve Golden, Steve Levine, Tom Hess, William Phillips, Aaron Nipper, Durab Patel, Glenn Mercer, Jay Walker, Jeff Bonner, Ryan Jarrell, Pat Daly, Patrick Kennedy, Troy Wallet, Mike Camerate, Nicole Harkin, Tim Youssef, Scott Reed. Thanks all of you for supporting Cool Tools. And if you would like to have a shout out, go over to the Patreon page and sign up. And thanks for listening to the Cool Tools podcast. We'll see you next week.